everybody. I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I would like to welcome you to Flexibility and Function. This is our second class of an 8-week series that is created and led by Tyler Ferguson. Say hi, Tyler.
Hi.
If this is your first time in class, our aim is for all of us to gain flexibility and have fun doing it. Now, those gains will take some work that Tyler will take us through in a minute. And you may think this isn't a real workout, but this kind of movement is something that will enhance flexibility and function and will contribute to the success of other physical activities you take on. Sometimes a slow and controlled movement is more challenging and can be more beneficial than a faster one. AARP Missouri believes that offering classes like this gives more people a chance to participate, though we also do have things that are in person, like walks and hikes and bike rides. However, a virtual class may be more convenient for some of you if you're a caregiver, for instance. Or you may be watching this later on our YouTube channel. Whatever works so you can participate when it's more convenient for you. And however and whyever you participate, we are glad to have you and hope this helps you enhance your commitment to healthy, active living. This is a great foundational class. You can find many of our previous fitness classes on Missouri's YouTube channel at youtube.com/AARPMO. Now, this class is suitable for many levels of fitness. However, you know your own limitations. Please do not try to go beyond what you know is right for you. If you have any concerns, check with your doctor before participating in this or any other AARP fitness offering. In addition to our online fitness classes, AARP also has resources for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information about home modification, technology information, as well as other upcoming activities on our website at aarp.org/nearyou. We have lots of activities going on and volunteer opportunities to make a difference in your life or your community. There are options to volunteer virtually or in person, volunteer regularly, or just once in a while. Just check our website at aarp.org/Missouri to find out more. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler, our instructor. Tyler, take it away.
Thank you, Diane. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. Illinois came up there, so we got our fourth, state. That's pretty cool. Everybody, if you're comfortable being barefoot, go ahead and remove your socks too, so it's not too slippery for you, and come on to standing if standing's comfortable for you. If standing isn't comfortable for you, you can sit and find a lot of these activations. The first thing I just want you to do is feel your feet. So let's just take a moment to arrive, connect our mind with our body, settle into class, and then just notice. Notice where the weight is in your feet. Notice if you have a tendency to put more of the weight to the insides with less pressure on the outsides of your feet, or the opposite, if you tend to hang out on the outsides of your feet with less pressure on the inside. You can also notice if you tend to hang more forward into your toes and the ball of your foot with lightness under your heels, or if you tend to hang back in your heels more. So can you resolve all of that so that your shoulders are over your hips or over your ankles and you feel your weight centered all around the ball of your foot? Inside, outside pressure, front and back pressure. And then moving up your legs, pretend like there's a beach ball between your inner thighs and just gently begin to bring that beach ball together. That'll activate the leg muscles a little bit more without, I'm going to give you some contrast here, without locking out your knees. So instead of getting tall by pulling your kneecaps back in space, I just want to see a soft bend in those knees. Good. Moving up the body, feel the creases of the hips. We all tend to have a little indentation there. Can you push your hips forward? I don't lock out my knees to do it. Push the hips forward and then squeeze your glutes just to allow the hips to stay in a little bit of extension. And then make those measuring sticks. Just feel the rib cage. It doesn't have to be a specific place. Feel the rib cage and then feel the pelvis. And then can you, there's your measuring sticks, can you stand tall and create distance between the thumb and the pinky rather than crouching and letting the thumb and pinky get closer together? And then final piece of the puzzle, chin is in, back of the neck is long. And then the tough part is, let it all go. The tough part is finding that without overemphasizing any of it. So can you find it again? Activation, standing nice and tall. Yeah, good. Chin is in, back of the neck long, fists down to the earth. First exercise, shrug your shoulders up into the ears. We live like this a lot. We don't want to. Push the shoulders down and away from the ears. Maintain that. I'm going to say, this is my right. I'm going to take my right ear to my right shoulder. You can use whatever right ear you want. And then just find your in range, ear to shoulder. Now, opposite shoulder, pull it down and away. Notice how that creates sensation and length in the neck. For more sensation, take that opposite jaw area and pull it up to the sky as the shoulder pushes down. Yeah, good. Breathe into that. Now let's relieve the tension by bending the knees, bringing your chin down, and then finding that on the other side. Opposite ear to the shoulder. Good. Shoulder down, jaw up. Breathe into that. Breathe right into that sensation. One more time. Chin down. Find it. You might be just thinking about your neck right now. You might be organizing your lower body to the stance that we had right at the beginning of the class. Chin down and switch. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but they're all important. If you want to go sling weights at the gym, you got to be able to stand with acceptable posture. If it's comfortable, bring your fingers right under your chin. We're going to go into neck rotations, and I want you to notice as you rotate, your chin doesn't push. Come back to the middle, look at the screen. Your chin isn't pushing down, and it's not flexing. Right? So those two things will create sensation in the fingers. The chin either pushes into them or pulls away from them. Keep the chin parallel with your arms, just rotate. And if you think you've got that activation where you're just rotating, you can take your arms down. You're looking over a shoulder. And then bring yourself right back in the middle. Think about that plane of the chin traveling. And then take the chin over the other shoulder. So we're working our neck, our cervical spine. And it wants to move, come back to the center one more time. It's really important to map out these movements in the body to understand how to rotate the neck without flexing it forward or laterally. Come back to center and take your eye gaze over the other shoulder. This could challenge your balance as your eye gaze moves. Good. Bring yourself right back to center. So anyway, our spine needs to move in all these directions. And a lot of the workout addresses the spine. Bring your hands across your shoulder. Think about that cue of lifting and lengthening. Rib cage up out of the pelvic floor, lift up and over. Older too. Older is fine. Good. We're all doing it. So we're flexing the spine laterally. We're going down below the chin now, getting more into the torso. And then press right back up. Lift and lengthen. And come over to your other side. Now notice my hips aren't moving to compensate, right? I'm just moving above the pelvis. We're going to do that again. Stay right here for any shoulder injuries. If your shoulders feel healthy, reach your hands up above your head. Hold on to your forearms or your elbows. Lift and lengthen out, and then come up and over. So we just created a little bit more weight, so that'll create more sensation. And then breathe into that rib cage. Push down in the foot that's on the long side of the body. Push down into that foot. Take an inhale. Exhale. Push yourself back up. Lift and lengthen. Come up and over to the other side. Same thing. Breathe into the rib cage of the long side of the body and push down through the long leg so that the sensation goes from the floor and you feel it. It travels all the way up to the elbow. Take an inhale here. Exhale. Push yourself back up. Arms can be here. My people that stayed here, stay right here. We're going to do it again. Lift and lengthen. Come over to the side. Now listen, it's going to change. Right now, your chest is parallel with the wall in front of you. I'm going to ask you to keep your hips right where they are, but rotate your chest, your chin, your nose as one unit. Rotate it down to the floor. You might not go all the way. We have different ranges of motion, but get that little twist in the spine. And then rotate your trunk back to the front of the room. You should still be in your lateral flexion, and then come right back up standing. Lateral flexion first on the other side. So the plane that your nose, chest, and the front of your pelvis, your knees are all in the same plane here. And then your lower body's going to stay in that forward facing plane, but you're going to rotate the upper body. So the nose and the chest rotate down to the floor. Good. Head stays even between the shoulders. Keep breathing, even though I don't cue it. And then come right back up to the center and release and bring your arms down. Give your wrists a little shake. Torque the shoulders a little bit. So extend the arms so that the hands are about the same level as the shoulders. Now this is kind of a squirrely little cue. Your humerus head, see if you can just plug it into your shoulders a little bit. Now the result, if you overdo it, will be like this. And that's not good stuff, right? Bam, shoulders down and away from ears. But if you can plug your humerus head in, and then from that space, think about your elbow to your fingertips, reach that long, right? So you're straightening out. We kind of have a hard time straightening that out. Good. And then start to just do some gentle circles. So right off, I'm starting in forward circles, still plugging the humerus head in, but reaching long through my fingertips. Good. And then pause. Let's draw the wrists back. So I'm bringing the knuckles back. I don't have good wrist flexibility here. And then push and extend, and then take your circles in the other direction. And then again, revisit the lower body. What's happening? Are you collapsing? Are you crunching? Are you losing contact in the lower body? Bam. Can you find the activation of the feet? Squeeze the beach ball in the inner thighs. Squeeze your glutes or turn on, use your glutes, and then release and let it go. Arms down to the side. Now we're simply just going to move in this, it's called the sagittal plane. So just front and back. And I want you to, pretend like you have a cup of water and you're throwing it out, throwing it out, throwing it out, throwing it out. Good. But let your, notice if you're stuck here. Just let this all relax. So the arms hang and swing. And when your hands come back behind you, there should be like a gentle tugging motion. Now your eye gaze is forward. You're not looking side to side. Your eye gaze is forward. Notice my rib cage is moving and my hips are moving a little bit, but I'm not changing the pressure in my feet. I'm not rolling onto the outside edges of my feet. And then just take your awareness inward a little bit, and then notice the shifts of weight. Notice when your right arm goes back, there's more weight in your right heel. When your left arm goes back, there's more weight in your left heel. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to free up and mobilize our rib cage. So the more mobile we are in the rib cage, the more, go ahead and come to stillness, the more it can expand. So if you did any exercise at all every day, do this one. So we just want to get the tightness of all this tissue. We want to start to move that tissue to give the rib cage room to expand so we can get more air in. All right, so breath, air, breathing, right? That's kind of fundamental to all of this. So if you do anything, just get that rib cage mobile. Now we're going to do something slightly different. Now the force is going to come from the feet. We're going to push through the feet. Let me see, let me get myself going. Good. And now I'm moving more at the hips. So I'm using my feet to propel my hips, and I'm letting my arms follow. So I'm not leading the movement with my hands. I'm letting my hands follow rather than initiate the movement. So just find some gentle rotations. What's nice about this movement is the weight of the hands as it swings through space and lands, it just gently tugs on the tissues of our shoulders. And that can be a nice stretch, that gentle tug, that added little bit of movement and weight. Good. And then we'll come to stillness here. We are ready. Oh, I know. We're going to do our scapula now. So if you want to get a little active, you want more of a workout, you can come to this chair pose. If you've been sitting the whole time, you can still do this in a chair, or you can just stand. But you're going to put your fingers together and round. Now look at my upper back. My shoulders are reaching forward, and my upper back is rounding. I'm not rounding in my lower back either. I'm keeping that neutral and just reaching. Good. So my scapula have separated. They're moving away from each other, and I'm stretching that muscle across my back. Now, from computers, we probably all have this pattern in our body. So let's separate the hands, pull the elbows up and back, shoulders down and away from the ears, and bring the scapula together. Now that might not be a movement we all have in our body. So we're going to challenge how far back can the elbows go? How much can I bring the scapula together? Inhale, exhale, shoot and round. So I'm rounding through the back. So we'll do cat-cow in a moment. This is just the upper part of cat-cow. And then separate the hands, bring the scapula together. Notice when the scapula comes together, the spine extends, the chest, the heart lifts. Try not to flare the ribs too much here. Now join me one more time in shooting around. But separate the hands and then bring them like this. This is what a push-up or a plank should look like in the upper body. So if I were to put this against the wall, that's what it's going to look like in the upper body. So when you start a push-up or a plank, you don't want to be here in your push-up and your plank. Push, boom, lock it in. That's where you want to be in your push-up. I'm getting ahead, I know. All right, here we go. This is where we stop for a little lesson. And Diane, can you put on that screen for a second? Sorry, I didn't give you any warning for this at all. I'm just going to show you a little cue I'm going to give you called crown to coccyx. So while Diane is figuring that out, I put her on the spot. I'm going to take this stick and put it behind me. You can do this at home with a broomstick or a mop stick. And what you want to make sure is the point behind your head, the point between your shoulder blades, and the point at your tail remain in alignment. So if you look at your spine and where it says cervical, thoracic, and lumbar, you can see that those points all come out at similar distances. So that's just how your spine works. You can come back, Diane. We do have natural curves in the spine. So if I ask you to stand tall, it doesn't mean that you don't have any curves in your spine. So then we're going to do this measuring stick. And for the next activity, I'm going to have you hinge at the hips with a flat back. Notice as I bring my chest to the floor, everything remains on the stick. And I'm going to come back up. Now, deviations from this would be if I said hinge, bring your trunk to the floor, and then you started to lead with your chin or your head. Notice how that's coming off the stick, right? So you want to lead maybe with the belly button, or you start to just round, talking tail, rounding, trying to get closer. That is not a hip hinge. That is not a flat back. That is a hip hinge with a flat back. So hopefully this little lesson makes sense to you. It'll probably be better if you watch the video and practice the difference between flexing or rounding the spine and not flexing it, keeping it as a flat back, which we saw the video in a flat back. There are still curves in your spine. I'm talking about crown to coccyx alignment. Okay, let's get into a straddle. Toe heel, your feet wide, and then bring in your toes just a little bit. So if you're a former soccer player like me, bringing in your toes is pretty darn easy. Hands go on the hips. Knees are not locked out. You still have a soft bend in the knees. And then you're going to hinge at the hips. So think about the belly button coming closer to the floor, not the chest or the chin. And think about the flesh of your glutes pulling back behind your heels. And then pause. So can you imagine that broomstick? Do you have that crown to coccyx alignment? Our chin isn't at our chest. Our spine isn't rounded and hunched. And then press back up. Let's try that again. Pitching, hinging right at the hips. Pull the flesh of your glutes back behind your heels as your flat back hinges forward, and only go as far as it makes sense for you. Notice here, my shoulders are way higher than my hips right now. Okay? If you try to bring your shoulders below your hips, it's going to be almost impossible to maintain that flat back. Good. Now drive through the heels. Feel your hamstrings and your glutes bring you up. Now you can stay right there with hands on the hips. So if you want to bring more core into it, bring your hands into sphere of tension, right under your body. Shoulders are packed, wide feet. So now you're going to hinge without assistance of your hands on your body. So that's already going to be a little bit more challenging. You're going to feel the core work. Just lower to a place that feels safe. Then start to push your fingertips in front of you towards the wall. And as your sphere of tension travels up the front of your body, beyond your face, you'll see that it takes more and more core strength to take those arms, those long levers out in front of the body. Good. Notice where your flesh of your belly button is. Draw your belly button in towards the back of your spine. Connect the front ribs. That cue is tough. We'll talk about that later. Now, if you want to exit back out, bring your hands back under your body. Keep sphere of tension or put your hands on your hips. Drive through your heels and come on back up. If that was a lot, you can always hold on to a chair or something when you do that. But that's a nice little lesson in hinging at the hips. We're going to move to the wall. If you don't have a wall, you can sit in a chair and do this. I'll demo it on the wall first. We're just going to get into our anterior tibialis raises. That's that muscle, that shin muscle. So it might feel good to pad this if you have a hard floor like I'm working on. Your hips are going to go against the wall, and the further your feet are forward, the more challenging this is going to be. Now, I almost always say soften your knee, but here you actually want to lock your knee out. So notice if I pull my quads up and in, my knees come back, and you can feel the contours of your quad muscles. So focus on that hard quad, keep it engaged, and then lift everything except for your heels. And you'll notice your hips will move up the wall and then lower. It's easy to bend your knees when you're lower. So re-engage, lift, and lower. So reminding yourself, keep moving, reminding yourself to keep the quads on, the knees locked out. The reason the knees are locked here is because we're transferring that movement all the way up so that our hips move up the wall so we don't just lose the energy here. We want to transfer it all the way up. If you're in a chair today, you simply just lean over and lift and lower. Do it right there from the chair. So what are we getting here? We're getting this shin muscle, or anterior tibialis. We're strengthening that, which is an important part of the gait function of walking. We're also getting blood flow into our ankles and feet and getting some ankle mobility. So overall strength. If you need to rest, rest. If you're starting to feel that burn, do it for 3, 4, 5 more. If you're not getting enough burn, put this in your memory bank and then go home or after class, figure out what your threshold is here. Figure out the number of these raises that you can do. There's a very happy dog or cat waggling its tail watching this video right now. It's very cute. So the dog likes the anterior tib movement. Let's go 3, 2. Now remember, we're all in different places in our workout. So you do what's best for you, what's nice. Now listen, when you exit, do bend the knees and come up on your exit. I interrupted myself, but do as many sets or reps as feels comfortable for you. I'd like to do more than just one set today, but we really don't have the time. Now, we're just going to complement that on the back side of the body, all right? So hands go on the wall. You could be at a countertop. You could be at a chair. It really doesn't matter, but we're going to transfer our weight. Wall is the easiest. I like it the best. So same thing, we're going to transfer our weight. So drive the heels up, and then top, feel your calf muscles work, and then try to go beyond that. Can you feel your hamstrings? Can you feel your glutes work? And then lower back down with control and press right back up. Lower down with control and press right back up. So the ability to both dorsiflex and plantar flex our ankles are important in the walking gait and in other functional life movements, going upstairs, descending, ascending stairs. So again, we're strengthening the posterior chain or the back leg muscles or calf muscles to be specific, but we're still maintaining blood or inviting in blood flow. We're getting ankle mobility here, ankle strength, muscles of the feet, flexors in the toes. Good. So again, if you need to take a rest, take a rest. If you want to keep on going, keep on going. If you're like, Tyler, this just isn't enough work, I agree. There's always room to do more, but unfortunately in a 45-minute class, there's not time to do more. So do extra sets of this at the end of class. 3. Yep. My calf muscles are burning. 2. I did this workout this morning already. And 1. Woo! And then lower it down and then soften, bounce a little bit from that movement. Now we're going to add some hip strengthening exercises today. So find your wall or find your chair, whatever one, and then the leg that's closest to the place where you're looking for your balance, that's going to be your balance leg. Now, I don't want you to lock out your knee, okay? Soft bend in your balance leg. Now, the leg that's going to be mobile, furthest from the wall or chair, pull that, I don't mean for this to be confusing, wall for me. Take that humerus head and plug it up into the hip. So notice if I just pull the head of the humerus up into the hip, see how I have some room under my foot? So maintain that, and then just take your foot out to the side and bring it back. So there's a lot to unpack here. Keep doing that exercise, even though I'm moving. Now, the first thing that the body tends to do to compensate here is we compensate by hinging at our trunk. So if you look, keep moving, you guys keep working. If you look at this, my leg is still under my hip. I've just moved my trunk. So keep the shoulders over the hips so we get some true abduction. The second thing that happens, you can rest if you want to for a second, is we tend to externally rotate, and now I'm using the inside. That's not the muscle I'm trying to strengthen right now. I'm trying to lead with your heel, strengthen this hip muscle. And then the third thing is momentum, right? So you don't want to kick it up there and be unconnected. Move nice and slow, feel connected the whole time. Doesn't matter how high you go, right? Nobody's judging us. You're just moving to your end range and then mindfully returning your foot. Let's switch sides. Move through your feet, your hips a little bit before you switch sides. I'll demo on the chair. I think that's better to point out some of our compensations. So whatever side you're balancing with, that's your standing, your balancing leg. Remember, pull that femur head up into the hip and then start to work. Right away, make your toe internally rotated, kind of like a pigeon toe. That'll help you access the outside of your hip. Notice if you're locking out your standing leg. And if you do it, don't be frustrated with yourself. It happens a lot. Not locking out the standing leg is something you really have to take time to teach yourself to remember and then feel and map out in your own body, but you'll get there. And then the last piece is moving slow and controlled. You might even pretend like you're working in a pool. That's why pool workouts are so nice. That water gives that kinesthetic feedback for you to move both directions as you're pushing out and or away and then back, returning in the water. So if you can imagine that little bit of pressure, that little 1 pound of pressure that the water gives in both directions. 3, you could do more sets of these at the end of class too. And I would say if there's anything that's probably underdeveloped is our hip stabilizers. Now, we were just balancing on this one leg, so you're going to switch and make that your mobile leg. I'm just going to go to the wall. And then now, a little bit less, fewer instructions. I'm going to be less bossy. Just find some swings. So again, pull that femur head up and then just allow the leg to swing. What's important on these swings is that the trunk isn't moving back and forth like a soldier. Just keep your shoulders above your hips and allow your leg to swing a little bit. So the ability to pull your toes up or dorsiflex your ankle is important here so you clear the ground, right? If you couldn't lift your toes, you would bang into the ground, bang into the ground. So that dorsiflexion, the same is true in your walking gait. When you're walking, the ability to pull up your toes. Switch it. Let's get the hip moving, mobile on the other side. So at some point you get a copy of today's workout, and what I've done is specified, is this a strength exercise? Is this a mobility exercise? Is this a stretch? Just so you can get a feel that there's a mix of all of these things in the workout. Okay, where are we today? Time for quadruped. So that is your hands and knees. If you can't make it to the floor, come hang out in the chair and do your best. I showed some things in the last meeting, ways to achieve some of these exercises in the chair, or you can just come to the wall and try to mimic, or come to the chair, try to mimic quadruped in your chair. So you can see that this shape looks almost exactly like this shape. All right, here we are, quadruped, cat, cow. Push the ground away, round your upper spine, but now you're gonna move your pelvis, tuck your tail a little bit, pull your belly button up toward your ribs. Breathe. Now take it the opposite direction. Take your front ribs, push them to the floor, lift your eye gaze, lift your chin, lift your tail. There's your cow shape. And then change it. Pushing around. Now, as you come into cow with me, again, most of us have this anterior tilt in our pelvis. So from here, from your cow, don't go fully into it. For one, don't go fully into it. Two, take your belly button, pull your belly button in. Notice that engagement. You might come out of your cow a little bit. That's okay. Stay engaged in the belly as you find your cow. And then one more time. So here's what we're doing. We are moving our spine right now. So there is not crown to coccyx alignment right now because we're choosing to move our spine. But can you come to neutral? Can you find that crown to coccyx alignment? By the way, we talked about this last week, but let me say it here. Fists, if your wrists are bumming you out, this is an option. Another option for you right now could be finding some blocks, getting your elbows on blocks. We're still in the quadruped shape, right? So bam, no tension on the wrists, okay? So come to your neutral spine here. We're gonna move into our bird dog. So take your right leg and just send it long, toes are on the ground. Then from there, float the leg up. Now this isn't bird dog, right? Heel doesn't have to be higher than the hip, float it up. Now bring the leg back down. We're gonna unpack the activation of bird dog. Whatever leg is your mobile leg, I'm gonna cue right leg, whatever leg that's mobile, bring your attention to your other leg, your base leg. Push through that shin. I'm just trying to show you. Don't move the leg. I'm just trying to show you. Push through that shin. Really connect to the ground. And notice how when you connect and push, your core turns on. Yeah? Good. Now, think about push up. Broaden across the back. Now lift and extend that leg. Yeah, so put the work here and here, right? So it's not so much work in the leg. Good. Keeping your back flat, crown to coccyx alignment, draw your belly button in, pull the knee under, and then take the leg back long. Notice my spine is not moving, and yours shouldn't either. So if you have to round to get your knee further, then avoid that. You're only moving your knee in as far as you can, as your hip mobility will allow, and you can stabilize through the spine. If you're on the chair, right, you're just reaching long, pulling up and in, and reaching long. Okay, that's our option for the chair. All right, bring that leg down and rest for a minute, and then take your wrists just some other way, okay? Get off your wrist for a second. You can make these little pawing movements. And then a nice one can be, take your fingers behind you, so your thumb is going to be on the outside of your body, all right? And then send your hips forward so it's less pressure. You're only doing one hand at a time. If you bring your hips back towards your heels, it's going to be a pretty big stretch. Where's your shoulder? Is it up in your ear avoiding this? No, take that shoulder away from the ear. And then your hips moving forward or back is kind of the like the gas pedal on how much sensation you want. If you want to come out of this stretch, make sure your hips are forward, not a lot of gas. Shake it out, find that on the other side. This, by the way, is not written on the exercise for today. I just threw that in there. Good. And then come back to your quadruped. Now, we're just going to get the shoulders and the hips to talk together. So again, neutral. I meant to do this before I did bird dog. Just neutral spine, shoulders and hips moving in this rock back shape. Good. Take a break off of your wrist. I'm just going to scroll through. Make sure I got some new messages. Make sure everything. Yep, got it. Super duper. Okay, let's try it on the left side. So we're going to take the left leg long. and float it up. What? Did we activate our right side? Maybe not. Let's bring the left leg back down. Activate the base leg. Press the shin in, feel the core fire, push the ground away, push the fingertips into the ground. Now take that leg long, float it. And then a common thing that happens in bird dog is we, make sure you can see me, we tend to open up and avoid using that part of the hip that we just worked. So turn your toes down, bring your hip down, and then start mobilizing. Knee comes under, leg extends long. Knee comes under, leg extends long. Notice I'm plantar flexing or pointing here. And then at the end of my movement, I'm dorsiflexing or pushing through my heel here. And then come up off of that. We're going to come to low lunge here. Blocks are awesome in low lunge. You're going to bring a foot forward. And when you do that, you want to have your knee over your ankle here. So what often happens when we come into low lunge is something like this happens. We get a little stuck and then we're like, okay, this is my low lunge. Nope, that's not your low lunge. Go ahead, grab onto this ankle and get it up there so that you have this nice structure, knee over ankle. Once you've gotten it there, bam, bring your shoulders over your hips. So you get a 90-degree angle, a 90-degree angle. What we're stretching right now is the hip flexor of the leg that's down. And the way we're going to accomplish that is, first thing is, we want to, remember the rib measuring sticks thing that we did in the beginning? Create space between the ribs and the hips. Now, turn on this rear glute to find some extension, not flexion at the hip, find some extension at the hip. And then my last little measuring stick is if I put my hands on my coccyx, we saw that on the diagram, and my pelvis or my pubic bone, my fingers are more down. If I'm in extension or have this funky tilt, my finger's going to be back. So bam, get your pelvis down, turn on this rear glute of the down leg. You have this nice stretch here. That might be enough. If you want more, walk those front toes forward. Keep this glute super duper duper fired on, neutral pelvis, and you're going to move forward. For my chair people, for people not on the floor, just going to do this exercise on a block. All right, there's kind of your 90-90 shape. You're just going to move this on a block. Okay, my people on the floor, go ahead and press back up. One more activation. I know this is a lot. Take your front heel, energetically pull it towards your back knee. You'll feel all this flesh turn on underneath. It gets nice and rock hard. Pull that together. Now lift and lengthen. Reach your arms up. There's your modified warrior pose. Eye gazes forward, belly button in. Exhale, release, and let it go. Woo, that's a lot of work, isn't it? All right, let's set it up on the other side. Opposite foot is forward. If you're standing today, you can just step your foot up on a block. If there's a safe, higher place with balance that you can step your foot on, you might be able to work in that place. Ask questions at the end of class, and you can use the video to get there. Otherwise, opposite foot comes forward. Let's organize this here. Bam, shoulders over hips, pelvis neutral, rear glute of the leg or the knee that's down turned on. If your knees are giving you a hard time right now, it's a lot of pressure in the floor. These little gardening knee pads can feel great. A rolled up blanket, a rolled up towel, a throw pillow off your couch. Go ahead and pad that knee. Don't push yourself through that pain. All right, now that rear glute is turned on. Walk the front leg forward. You get a little bit deeper in your stretch. Don't lose connection. Belly button in, rear glute on. That protects your low back as you move forward. For some of you, you might not even want this. It's enough just to be at 90-90. Then our final little trick, energetically draw the heel towards the body. So my foot is sticking to the mat, but it's not moving. All this hamstring tissue just tied on. Back knee is pulling forward. Feel that stability and strength in the hips. Reach your arms up. So there's this energetic downward as your arms are reaching up like a zipper, right? You hold the bottom of the zipper to be able to find that length. So feel your inner zipper, inhale, exhale, bring your hands down to the earth. Woo, let's get out of that shape. Take any movements that feel good to you. Some little hip wiggles, little cat cows, just anything to unlock what we just did. And we're going to come to our seats. If you're standing, come to a chair. And you're going to sit in the chair. Yeah. You're going to sit in the chair in an undignified way, kind of like that. Well, that. If you're on the ground, if you can get your knees up, go ahead and bring your spine back behind your hips. Try not to round and slouch. Think about the distance between the bottom of your ribs and your pelvis. All right. And then if you have a block, you can use it. If not, no big deal. We're just going to feather. So I'm going to take my right knee, one knee, and I'm just going to internally rotate it, maybe bring it to that block and come back up. If you hate this, you'll thank me for this one day. This is a really hard movement for a lot of people, this internal rotation of the hip. Don't get frustrated with it. Now, you will notice as the knee internally, or as the knee goes in and the hip internally rotates, the outside edge of my foot does peel up off the floor. Okay, that's okay. If this is easy, you want a deeper challenge, you can go ahead, make a deeper challenge. What I hope you all do, those of you that come to all 8 weeks, notice if you feel a change as you begin to explore this hip mobility. Only go in as far as you can tolerate, never pain, right? Never go into pain, just find your edge. Let's switch to the other leg. And then a couple more things I want to, this hip isn't near as mobile as my other hip, but I need to warm it up, right? So movement and joint. When you move a joint, it sends synovial fluid into the joint, which lubricates the joint and hydrates the joint, which is why you want to move on the days that you want to feel good. You always want to move. Good. So bringing it, feathering it in and out. Thing I want to point out here is my sits bones are staying on the ground as I do this. So it's very easy to avoid this by lifting your hip. Oh, look how deep I can go, but my hip isn't on the ground. So my femur head is not moving and my hip, my pelvis is moving. So pelvis stable, just moving the femur head in the joint. All right. Those are your shin boxes. That's your homework, feathering into that internal rotation, working on your end range. Okay, let's get down on the floor and see if we can't get these get-ups in here. I see that I'm getting a little later than I hoped, but bridge shape on the floor. So knees bent, feet on the ground, arms at a 45 degree. The first thing I'm just going to have you do is bring your chin in, make the back of your neck long, and float your head up off the floor. So I could slide a piece of paper under it and hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lay it back down. Now I demonstrated this last week. You're not flexing your spine. So by lifting your head higher off the floor, you're not doing more work. So don't do it. It's not the exercise. What you're trying to do is bring your chin in, make the back of your neck long, and then think about the spine, the stabilizing muscles on the front of the spine. You're just hovering your head up off the floor. If you want to work harder, go mentally into the front of your body. Feel that work. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring your head back down on the earth. Now, right arm. I'm going to reach it up to the ceiling, across my body towards my opposite knee. Shoulder peels up, head peels up. Bring my belly button closer to the top of my hips. Lower back down to the floor. Don't jerk up. That's not the goal. The goal is slow, smooth. Reach across my body, lift my head, lift my shoulder. Find your end range. You might feel your obliques working. And lower back down. If this doesn't make sense, we'll unpack it at the end of class. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to revisit this exercise every single week. But next week, week 3, we're going to add on to it. So this week, we're just priming and understanding the movement. We reach the fingers, the head and shoulder lifts, and we come back down. Let's try it on the other side. I don't like the way I cued that. So opposite arm reaches across the body, shoulder peels up, and as if somebody's pulling your fingers, eventually your head comes up too. I like that cue better. All right. So feel it happening. Reach like somebody's going to help you up. Shoulder starts to peel. Then the head comes up and follows. You want to try to avoid leading with your head. Lead more with your core or your trunk to let the shoulder and the head follow. We're looking for about 5 of these on each side. Reach. As you reach, crunch your belly button to your spine, then let everything follow. And come back down. Final exercise. You can look at the screen. I'm going to give you one example. Then, when you're doing the exercise, I want your neck to be neutral and looking at the ceiling. I don't want you to look around. Go ahead and look at the screen. The exercise is push your hips up into the air and lower them back down. Do this with me. Feel your back ribs on the ground. Keep those connected. And then just push your hips up, squeeze your glutes, lower back down. So we're going to keep our back ribs more down today. Squeeze your glutes at the top, open up the front of the hips. Just press up. Remember, you're looking at the ceiling when you start working. The more you would lift off the ground, it's shifting your weight to your neck, the more dangerous it would then be to look around the room. Press it up, lower down. When you press up, think about maybe squeezing that beach ball and then pause for a minute. Squeeze the beach ball, squeeze the hips, and lower back down. Let's do 3. Belly button into spine. And 2. And final 1. And that, my friends, is almost it. If you're laying on the back side of your body, bring a knee into the chest. Bring another knee into the chest. Roll over onto your side body. Take a minute. And then slowly press yourself up. You want to come up slow because if you do feel a little bit dizzy because the blood distributed differently, you just want to come up slow so that if you feel dizzy, just go right back down. So we don't have any heads hitting the floor. Darn, I had a couple more exercises, but I think it's time. I think it's time for us. Yeah, it's time. So we'll get those in next week. Thanks everyone for joining me today.